Okay, let's talk about online dating, specifically how you can become and remain successful with online dating for the rest of your life. Now, on December 3rd, I am giving a free online webinar live where we discuss online dating techniques that are working right now in 2020. And we'll open it up for a full Q&A at the end of that session. That is December 3rd at 1 p.m. PST. There is a link below to register for that webinar. That is free. If for some reason you're watching this video after that date, you can still click that link. That will go to the page that features the Ultimate Online Dating Manual updated for the 2020s, which will be released on that date, December 3rd, 2020, in just a few days from now. Cool? Cool. Okay. Every dating technology, every online dating technology, whether it's a website, whether it's a service, whether it's a phone app, it doesn't matter, goes through 5 phases. 5 phases of effectiveness. When it comes out, it goes through all 5 phases, and it is normal and natural. And when you understand these phases and you use these phases to your advantage, you will no longer be worried or concerned when a certain dating site or dating service or dating app stops working or doesn't work as well. Because over the last few years, there's been a lot of angst about online dating, hasn't there? A lot of guys say, it doesn't work anymore, it sucks, it doesn't work. Ah! When you understand the 5 phases, you'll never have that problem ever again. And as an alpha male 2.0, that means you're never going to be monogamous for the rest of your life, which means you need to have a mechanism to bring new women into your life, at least sporadically, for the rest of your life. And if you don't want to do night game for the rest of your life, you probably don't if you're over the age of 35, or if you get that age. And if you don't want to do day game for the rest of your life, or you can't do day game because of fucking COVID lockdowns, your only other option, other than social circle game, which is still viable, is online dating. So it's important for you to understand this. Now, here's how this works. Every online dating app, service, website, whatever, it doesn't matter which one. I'll give you some examples in a little bit. Go through 5 phases. The first phase, the very first, is early adopters. This is when it is first created. Adopters. That says adopters, trust me. This is when the website or web app or service or what have you is first created. And it's kind of an oddity. It's this weird, funny little thing that people go, oh, isn't that cute? Oh, that's so funny. Oh, that's great. No one actually uses the damn thing, but people just think it's kind of weird. A lot of people don't even know it exists. So there are people on there during early adopters, but not enough people to provide enough scale for the model to actually work. So it doesn't work very well during the early adoption phase. There aren't enough women on there. Basically, it doesn't work at all. The next phase, it gets into after a few years or less, we'll talk about that in a minute, is the fun phase. This is where it gets hyper effective. Hyper effectiveness. This is when This is when the dating site app service becomes amazingly effective. This is when normal, everyday beta male guys can go onto this thing and just rack up first dates and rack up sex and have sex with 4 or 5, 6 girls like nothing. Not like seasoned pickup artist guys, not ripped six-pack guys, normal dudes who use this thing, whatever it is, are getting laid left and right. They're getting dates left and right. It's kind of the golden age of that era or that app or that website or what have you. It's fucking great. It's what we all miss when we fall in love with a particular app or a particular dating site or a particular dating service. Then over time, unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. It doesn't last forever. After a while, more people come onto the app or the service. It gets more saturated and it enters into phase 3, which is when it becomes, quote, normal, the normal phase, or if you like, mainstream. It becomes mainstream. Millions of people pile onto the app, millions of women, millions of dudes, tons of beta males, tons of women who maybe aren't quite as serious in their intent to actually get into a car or a train and actually meet a guy in real life. A lot of people are on there, so it's no longer hyper effective, but it still works. It still works, and it works fine. It just doesn't work as easy as it once did. So it works, and it's okay, but it's not as awesome as it was during hyper-effective. Hyper-effectiveness. I'm going to be exact and precise. So it's normal for a while, okay? Then, unfortunately, it enters into the next phase, and that is when it becomes difficult. This is where several things occur. Number one, it becomes overly saturated. Tons of dudes are on there now, saturating the hell out of it and pissing off all the women. Number two, tons of women are on there, or fake profiles, or attention whores, or women who are advertising their Instagrams, or webcams, or OnlyFans, or what have you, or they're hookers on there, or in many cases, a lot of women on there who are just temporarily mad at their boyfriends. They really have no intention to meet anybody. They just want to get some attention from dudes for about 2 weeks until they forgive their boyfriends and go off the app and go back to their boyfriends, and so on. So you have this massive amount of beta males, you have this massive amount of women who are really not there to date, and then the third thing happens during the difficult phase. The dating site itself, or the app itself, starts imposing all kinds of stupid rules. They change their algorithms to make it more difficult. They limit your ability to message women. They put all kinds of restrictions on you for searching, finding, matching, swiping, messaging, what have you. It becomes a fucking clusterfuck, and at that point, the dating app or the dating website still works. I don't want to make that clear. It still works. It's just hard. Now it's difficult. You can use this system to get laid or get dates. You can use it and it still works. At the difficult phase, phase 4, it's not like it doesn't work anymore. It still works. The difference is you got to put in a lot of numbers. You got to be very patient. You have to be very creative. You got to come up with a bunch of really creative ways to work around the systems. The guys who helped me write the Ultimate Online Dating Manual updated for the 2020s have all kinds of systems in place where they're using systems right now. They're difficult, apps like Tinder and things like that, who are in the difficult phases, but they're killing it on these apps because they're creative and they're hardworking. We talk about that in the book. But anyway, that's phase 4. Then over time, it enters into the final phase, and that is when the site or app becomes niched. Now, niched is a good word in Alpha 2.0 in terms of Alpha 2.0 business structures, right? But in terms of a dating app or a dating site, niched is bad. Niched means when it gets beyond difficult. Niched means that dating app or dating service or website or what have you only becomes valid for a very teeny, tiny, narrow segment of the male population. And for everybody else, for the 95% of the app's users, it's pretty much useless. You shouldn't even use it anymore. That's what niched becomes, and it sucks. And that's at the point you need to bail on that app or bail on that service, or, and I'll talk about this in a minute, take advantage of that niche. So maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. But these are the 5 phases that every dating technology goes through. Now let me give you several examples of what has happened in the past with this stuff. And you'll see how normal and natural this is. So I'll use the granddaddy. First, let's talk about Match.com. So Match.com, really the first mainstream dating app site. It went through all 5 of these phases. The first phase, early adopters back in the mid to late 90s is when Match.com was invented. No one really used it. People are like, oh, isn't that so cute? You can meet people on this new internet thing. Oh, that's so funny. No one will ever do that. Those of you my age or older, you can remember those days. It was like, oh, that's so silly and fun. Oh, why would you actually meet a woman on a computer? How dumb. Okay, so that was early adopters. No one did it. Then, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005. So about 2002 to about 2005-ish or so, Match.com entered hyper effectiveness. A bunch of women came in, but not too many. A bunch of guys came in, but not too many. And normal, everyday beta male dudes were getting laid left and right with multiple women with ease on Match.com. It was amazing. Unfortunately, I missed this window. I was in my traditional monogamous first marriage, so I wasn't able to date back between 2002 and 2005. But I knew a lot of guys in my family, guys I worked with, and they were just not pickup artists, not six-pack dudes, not chads, normal everyday dudes. Like, oh yeah, I banged 6 different girls on Match.com in the last 12 months. You're like, what the hell, what? It was awesome for those guys who were able to take advantage of Match.com phase 2. Then what happened? Around 2006, 2007, it moved from phase 2 to phase 3, it became normal. Became a lot more saturated. That's when I entered the online dating game in 2007. So when I entered the online dating stuff and I started using Match.com back then, it was in the normal phase. So it worked well, but it didn't work as easy as the guys before me. They were lucky. I missed out on that. It sucked. But the way it goes, it still worked. It was just difficult. Speaking of difficult, after a few years, it moved into phase 4 and it started getting very difficult. A whole bunch of fake profiles appeared on the site. The actual site started limiting your ability to message women and cracking down all kinds of things. A lot of the more relaxed, happy women, so to speak, left the site, leaving a bunch of angry women, and so it became harder to date. And it stayed there for a long time, many years. It still worked, though. It still worked. You could still find dates and sex and relationships on Match.com during phase 4 because you can. You just had to work it very hard. You'd be very patient, be creative, work the numbers, work with other dating apps, and it worked. It was just difficult. Today, unfortunately, barely. I mean, Match.com is a whole different thing now, but today it is, in phase 5, it is niched. Match.com today, at best, if I were to explain it or summarize it, it would be, that's the place where divorced people over 30 go to find their second spouse. So if you are a divorced guy who's 42 and your only goal in life is to find your next wife and you want to marry some woman who's 35 who is also divorced, then you'd go to Match.com. If you are not in that category, Match.com is pretty much useless. Pretty much useless. I don't even recommend it anymore. But that wasn't always the case. It went through these 5 phases. Now, let's take another one. Let's take Tinder, because Tinder went through these 5 phases. Now, Tinder, interesting, Tinder went through these 5 phases, but much more quickly than Match.com. Match.com took 15 years to go through these 5 phases. Tinder took just a few years. So first, very briefly, it was at early adopters. This funny little thing where you could swipe with your finger, these different pictures, and oh, that's so funny, oh, that's so cute, ha ha ha. It was kind of this oddity. Then, around, I don't know, 2011, 2012, somewhere in there, what happened? Hyper effectiveness. And my old quote about Tinder was that Tinder was awesome for about a year and a half. So its hyper effectiveness phase, in my opinion, lasted about 18 months. Maybe 2 years on the outside. I really think it was about 18 months, somewhere around 2012-ish. And during that time, oh yeah, Tinder was awesome. And thank God I was able to hit this wave. I was Black Dragon at that time, so I was able to benefit from this for a year and a half. So you could just swipe, match, 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 match. Tinder was fucking great. Tinder was the shit for about a year and a half, and then what happened? Everyone heard about it. It became this fun fad. Everyone piled into it, and it became normal. A bunch of women came on there who were mostly attention whores looking for guys. A lot of women learned they could link their Instagram and Facebook pages and social media to their Tinder profiles and use it as a de facto social media app and site and crap like that. So it became more difficult. It became normal. And it was normal for quite a while. It still worked, but not nearly as well as that did during its 18-month golden age, right? Then over time, what happened? Tinder became difficult. And today we are at phase 4 with Tinder. It is difficult. Now, it still works. I'm going to keep repeating that throughout this video. Just because an app or a site is in phase 4 difficult does not mean it doesn't work. It works. The guys who helped me write this book are killing it on Tinder. They're doing a great job, but they're very creative. All kinds of creative techniques that are in the book that they have to utilize to make Tinder work, but it does work. There are guys right now getting laid on Tinder even during COVID, even though it is technically difficult. Now, in a few years, maybe less than a few years, Tinder will move into phase 4 and it'll become niched. It'll become just viable for a certain narrow type of guy. And if you're not in that narrow type of segment, you shouldn't even fucking use Tinder. We're not there yet, but we will be there in the next year or 2 or 3. Again, normal and natural. Let's use one more example. This is a fun one. Sugar daddy dating sites. Ooh, let's talk about that. So it went through the same 5 phases. First, it was early adopters around 2014. No, I should say 2013. When websites like Seeking Arrangement came online, no one really used them. It was like, oh, what the hell is this? This is prostitution. Oh, these poor girls, this should be illegal. That kind of stuff. Went through that phase. No one was really on there. People were kind of scared of it. People were kind of intimidated, men especially. But then, what happened in 2014, 2015? Hyper effectiveness. And so I heard so much about this, I'm Black Dragon, I had to research this, so I dipped my toe into it, and I was shocked. 2014, 2015, the sugar daddy sites, it was just pages and pages of super hot younger women. They were all hot, like, oh my God, what the hell? And you often didn't have to pay them. You didn't, as long as you were an older guy. It was amazing for about, I would say, 2.5 years or so, 2.5 years. And during that time, I slowly moved into that world. I have philosophical beliefs about paying for dates and paying for sex, so I didn't just jump into it. I slowly moved into that world. But there were times during that phase of hyper effectiveness where I didn't have to pay the women at all. because it was so effective. So it worked very well for about 2.5 years. And then what happened? It got mainstream attention. A whole bunch of guys piled in there, a whole bunch of women piled in there. All the girls on there told all their friends, haha, you should do this too. Okay. So now today it's normal. You go on the dating sites, the sugar daddy sites now. Today you'll see attractive women, and you'll see a lot of women that aren't so attractive. It looks a lot more like a normal dating site now. And there's a lot of guys on there, these high-income, no-game beta males who say, I'll pay you $1,000 if you just have dinner with me, please. And they're fucking up the market in those apps. So now it's not hyper-effective anymore. It is kind of normal. It's okay. We are now moving, as of this moment, as of this recording of this video, sugar dating apps are moving from phase 3 into phase 4. They are now becoming difficult. They are not difficult yet, but they're certainly getting there. I would say within the 6 to 12 months, they will be more difficult. Maybe longer. It's a guess. It's not a prediction. I could be wrong. But we're between phase 3 and phase 4 in terms of the sugar daddy apps. And again, in a while, who knows when, it will move from phase 4 to phase 5. It'll be totally niched for some very narrow segment of guy. Who knows what that would be? And if you're not in that segment, it'll be useless and you'll have to find something else. Now, why am I explaining all this? Here's what you need to do to make sure that you are effective, that you are hyper effective at online dating for the rest of your life, which you'll need to be as an alpha male 2.0. Because we alpha male 2.0s do not have the option of just settling down with a woman and saying, okay, I'm never having sex with anyone else for the rest of my life. We don't do monogamy, so occasionally you're gonna need to bring new women in. So you need a skill set that can work for you for the rest of your life in terms of bringing new women into your life. That can be day game. If you wanna do day game in your 50s or 60s, probably don't. It can't be night game because you won't wanna do that when you're old. It's either online dating or you better be a very extreme extrovert and be really good at social circle game, basically, right? So here's what you have to do. Here's the secret. This also, when I explain this to you, it will reduce the angst you feel about when you're using a particular app and it stops working and you just throw a fit because it doesn't work anymore. Here's how you do this. You utilize the apps as best you can when they are hyper effective, normal, and difficult. When an app starts becoming too difficult, when it starts moving from phase 4 to phase 5, here's what you do. You draw a line here and you stop using that app. And you look on the internet, you open your eyes, you look up, you stop bitching and moaning and complaining about online dating, and you go on the internet and you look and you see what is now coming online in terms of hyper effectiveness. And you pivot to that app. That's what you do. Once you find this, you ride this, and then you ride this, and then you ride this, and within a few years, that app that was awesome now sucks. And guess what? You do it again. You stop using that and identify what is hyper effective and do that. Very simple. This is not complicated. Well, Caleb, what is hyper effective right now? Here's what I think is moving into hyper effectiveness right now. Instagram game. We've got guys who wrote the book who are doing nothing but Instagram and they are killing it. The last 2 years in particular. During COVID and prior to COVID, I have run into a lot of guys who are doing hardcore Instagram game, who are getting laid left and right. I am also running into more and more women who have hooked up with guys who hit them up on Instagram. So I think, I could be wrong, but I think the next hyper effective thing is Instagram game. So if you hate OkCupid, for example, oh, OkCupid doesn't work, great. Stop using OkCupid and start doing Instagram game, learn it. Get the ultimate online dating manual that comes out on the 3rd. If you don't like my material or my content, find someone else's content, but start going in that direction. And again, if I'm right, and Instagram game is the new hyper effective thing, soon it will be normal, it will not be hyper effective, then it'll be difficult, then it'll suck, and you're going to find something else new. And you will just do this the rest of your life. There will always be online dating for the rest of your life. There will never be a time in our lives where there will be no way to date women online. That's not going to happen. It will just be different. 15 years from now, the specific apps and platforms will be different, won't they? They won't be the same, but they will still be there. And there'll be some going through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5. And it's your job to keep your antenna up as to what the next new thing is so you can constantly move through this cycle. You don't want to live here. You don't want to live here. You can live here temporarily. That's okay. Temporarily until you jump back up to 2. See how this works? Very, very simple. It's not difficult at all. Yes, that means you have to learn a new app or new system once every few years. Boo fucking who? Tough shit. Do it. Better than complaining, because that's what most guys do. What most guys do, and you've seen these guys on my blogs, you've seen these guys on the dating forums, you see these guys on YouTube, They have a particular app they fall in love with. OkCupid was a big one. Tinder was a big one. And it gets into phase 4, difficult. They go, this sucks. Online dating doesn't work. This is bullshit. And they spend the rest of their lives bitching about how online dating doesn't work anymore. That's stupid. Instead, just do this. Guess what? This is what I've been doing. I've been online dating for 13 years. 13 years. Do you think I'm still using Yahoo Personals? No. Do you think I'm still using MySpace? MySpace was badass. From like 2007 to 2009, it was here. MySpace was the shit. Am I still using MySpace? No. When MySpace went to phase 4 and then phase 5, did you see me, oh, MySpace doesn't work, so I can't get laid ever again online? No. I said, what's the next new thing? Which was Tinder. So I've done the same thing. That's all you need to do. It's not that difficult. December 3rd, 1 p.m. PST, my free webinar on how to do this. Register below, 1 p.m. PST, or if you're watching this video after that deadline, you can still click the link below to get information on the Ultimate Online Dating Manual, the most comprehensive manual on online dating you can get in the world. Right there below. I will see you in the next video. Have fun. Bye.